Look at those apples. A Dulce De Leche apple pie. That sounds so delicious.
I love caramel.
Yes.
Organic condensed milk.
Look at those red apples. Just the right handful size. It's a good sound effect.
Turn it on hot.
Yes, put it on high and bring it to a boil. Make sure you bring it to a boil. Take the wrapper off. You don't want to cook a wrapper. It's just messy. Once it's at a boil, you can put that in there.
Press pause now and gather your ingredients listed.
There.
I love spice. Spice makes apple pie nice.
Yes, it does.
Nutmeg.
East Indian nutmeg. Does that make it better? Ooh, that's
Amish
the best
butter. You can get that at Safeway.
And it is the best.
We have the
so delicious. Look at how good that butter looks. Ooh, that water is boiling.
We have the sugar and spices already mixed into the mixing pot. We're gonna add.
Yeah, I just kind of measured everything out and threw it in there and warmed it up and made it into like a caramel. Put the apples in with it. Make sure you butter your pan really good. You want to oil that thing up nice.
We recommend Amish butter because then it makes a nice crispy crust.
Yeah, it's an organic butter too. It's pretty good.
Yes,
very tasty.
The Amish really know how to make their butter.
They do. They make it with their hands, I think.
But they make it with love, that's for sure, because it's tasty.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see in the background, the can of sweetened condensed milk is boiling in the pot.
I love brown sugar. Tasty.
How long do you boil the pot?
You boil that pot of Dulce De Leche for about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes and get nice and dark. It is going to kind of burst out of the top, though, when you get it out. Make sure you cool it off. Then you won't get too big of an explosion. Peeling the apples is not too bad if you start at the top.
It's really not too bad if you're the one videoing it.
Definitely much easier when you do that. Less cleanup that way too. Ooh, look at them slices. Slice them kind of semi-thick, not too thin, not paper thin.
But thin.
But that way you get that nice apple thickness in your mouth when you eat the pie. It's delicious.
The apples are perfect. Where did you get those from?
We got those apples from a friend who grew them organically on her farm and gave us a box of apples. She gave them to a whole bunch of people. I bet you none of them made this great of a pie. Look at those slices.
They are beautiful.
Yeah. Make sure if you have some gross parts, just cut them out. Put them off to the side. Most of those apples were awesome.
Cut out the worms.
Definitely don't. Don't keep the areas that might have worms. Now you definitely want to cut, like, to make all of these pies and tarts and empanadas that I made here, I used probably about 8 to 9 apples. But if you're just doing the pie, you can do it with about 5 apples.
You are excellent at cutting apples. I really like your form.
This is my first apple pie.
Your first apple pie was a contender for the best apple pie I've ever had.
Oh, it was so delicious. That crust that made that pie awesome for me, because I don't like normal standard pie crust that you can buy at the store. I wanted to go with something different. That's why I went with that Pillsbury flaky dough. It's almost like a croissant for the crust instead of, oh, well, this is already played. See, that was spikes.
That's something to know.
Yeah, that. It's still very meditative watching the apples be cut into little pieces. Well, looks like we're all done.
Look how nice and thin they are.
Yeah, look at that.
And they're very crisp. These are nice, crisp, fresh apples. You can see the moisture.
Too. We had to grab a slice or two because they were delicious. Now that's the caramel that we're going to cook it into. You know, stir up those apples really good and get them good and caramely. And then you're going to leave them in that pot covered. For about 15-20 minutes. It'll keep them nice and warm. And you want them to start to get soggy, because they're going to cook again in the pie, but you don't want them overcooked. You almost just want to steam them.
Yes, they were still crisp to the taste, even after baking the pie to a golden brown.
Look at that caramel going in there. That's going to cook in the pie. I think this was one of the best apple pies I've ever had.
It is so good. I love it.
It was very tasty.
Love.
If you're watching this while you're sleeping, I recommend you make this pie tomorrow. You should wake up and make this pie. Make this pie tomorrow.
Or, if you're awake, make it with us right now.
Yeah. And I had that kind of on a low, in between medium and low heat. You can see that water still boiling. You have to make sure you keep adding water to that, because it does boil off of there, and keep watching it. I had to add water probably 3 times.
Did you see we were on that video?
Oh, and there's the dough. I saw that we were in the reflection of the pan. Were you laughing at me putting my vaporizer down? You should definitely vape when you make a pie.
You should bake while you bake.
Yes, you should bake while you bake. It definitely helps with the creativity of making a good pie.
And it enhances the flavors when it's done.
Definitely enhances the flavors, yes, absolutely. Look at that. I definitely would wait until it warmed up a little bit. I pulled it straight out of the fridge, and it was a pain to level out and make into large enough sizes. Ooh, it's caramel time. Look at that. And this is after it's been sitting in the freezer for a moment, cooling off. exploded out of there.
I love that caramel.
We definitely licked that can dry even after it was poured out.
The caramel is delicious.
Yes, I will do that again. That was a unique way to make it. You can also make it in the oven as well.
What temperature do you do if you're going to bake it in the oven?
I think that it is 425, and you do it for a slightly lower amount of time, but I haven't tried it that way.
Look at the pour. Pour it all through.
Oh yeah, I poured a lot in there.
That was half of the can for that pie.
Yeah. Look at that. And then it just melted throughout the pie while the pie was cooking. And there's for my empanadas and my tarts. I just did a crisscross pattern instead of like the basket woven pattern. I wanted it to look nice but not have too much dough over the top.
It's beautiful. Yum. Yum.
Look at that. Putting it all back together. I put it together before I put the caramel on, and then I had to take the top off. Look at that. The oven I had heated up to 425 also.
Make sure the oven is empty before you preheat the oven so that you don't have to take a hot pan out like we did.
Yes, and this is a deep dish pan, so it was a nice thick apple pie. And look at that, it's just boiling. The caramel is bubbling along the sides of the dough. Oh, look, it's done.
Ooh, how come that screen showed up?
I don't know.
That is delicious.
It is such a good looking pie. There's some of the caramel on the side. Look at that brown, golden brown. You just cook it until it's golden brown and then you turn it off. You let it sit in the oven for a while. And those are going in. They haven't been cooked yet. Ooh, look at that. I made some caramel apple and put some over the top of them. I sprinkled sugar along the top of the crust on that. And for the tarts, I did caramel along them as well. So that caramel apple candied also. They look so good.
Yum.
That pie was amazing.
We became big hits with the neighbors after this.
Oh yes, we shared with our neighbors. That looks so good.
Yeah.
Look at that. Gives them good, better lighting over there.
Mm.
Oh, well, I guess it's over.